Welcome back to the MOOC course titled Corporate Social Responsibility. My name is Aradhana Malik and I'm helping you with this course. And we have been discussing the history and evolution of CSR in India, and we talked about the various models that were being followed. Now in this lecture, I will give you details of the National Voluntary Guidelines. And these are the guidelines on which the business responsibility reports are formulated. Excuse me. So here, okay, the National Voluntary Guidelines are applicable to all businesses. Excuse me. The National Voluntary Guidelines are applicable to all businesses irrespective of sector or size. Let me show you what these guidelines are. Here, I've given you the website, and these guidelines actually discuss the principles, the core elements of all the principles of business responsibility activities, how the CSR activities can be strategized, how they should be strategized. There are suggestions regarding how the report should be put together. So we will take up bits and pieces of these guidelines as we go along in the class. Okay, so this is what we are talking about, and I will share. This was designed by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. Now let me show you again. All the information on these slides has been taken from this particular document. There are 9 principles in the National Voluntary Guidelines, and in this lecture we will go through each of these principles here. Okay, all right. So in this lecture we will go through the details of each of these principles, and I would urge you to go online and find out examples. I will show you some, but I would and of course we will discuss how these guidelines are implemented in another class, but today we will just go through the principles and their core elements. The first principle is that businesses should conduct and govern themselves with ethics, transparency and accountability. First and foremost, businesses need to be transparent and accountable. If you are not transparent, you are violating principle 1. It is absolutely essential to be accountable to all your stakeholders. The second principle is businesses should provide goods and services that are safe and contribute to sustainability through their life cycle. The third principle is businesses should promote the well-being of all employees. The fourth principle is businesses should respect the interests of and be responsive towards all stakeholders, especially those who are disadvantaged, vulnerable and marginalized. Now, who are disadvantaged and who are vulnerable and who are marginalized again varies from context to context. The fifth principle is businesses should respect and promote human rights. Sixth principle is businesses should respect, protect and make efforts to restore the environment. There is a lot of focus on the natural environment. Principle 7 is businesses, when engaged in influencing public and regulatory policy, should do so in a responsible manner. Principle 8 is businesses should support inclusive growth and equitable development. Principle 9 is businesses should engage with and provide value to their customers and consumers in a responsible manner. Okay. Now the core elements, I know this seems too clustered, so anyway I will just read these. For principle 1, the 6 core elements of principle 1 are businesses should develop governance structures, procedures and practices that ensure ethical conduct at all levels and promote the adoption of the principle across its value chain. Businesses should communicate transparently and assure access to information about their decisions that impact relevant stakeholders. You can see how much detail is there. Stakeholders are taken into account, the value chain is taken into account. Businesses should not engage in practices that are abusive, corrupt or anti-competition. Businesses should truthfully discharge their responsibility on financial and other mandatory disclosures. Businesses should report on the status of their adoption of these guidelines as suggested in the reporting framework of the NVG document. There are clear guidelines on how reporting needs to be done, and I'll show that to you. Businesses should avoid complicity with the actions of any third party that violates any of these principles contained in these guidelines. So, very clear directions are given, the elements of each principle are given. Similarly, for principle 2, we will go through each of these so you get a sense of how the government wants the organizations to engage in CSR activities. Core elements of principle 2 deals with provision of goods and services that are safe and contribute to sustainability in their life cycle. So, the first core element is businesses should assure safety and optimal resource use over the life cycle of the product from design to disposal. We take our computers, we have cell phones, how do we dispose of them? It is the organization's responsibility to inform us. I am sure this information is there in the handbook that is given with all our devices. How many of us follow it? We just, we run out of, something happens to our cell phone, we either give it to somebody or we just throw it in the dustbin. That's not what is supposed to be done. There are rules in place, but again, organizations do their bit and we then see how we have to treat it. Okay. From design to disposal, and ensure that everyone connected with it, designers, producers, value chain members, customers and recyclers, are aware of their responsibilities. These things are mentioned on the packets that we get. Now, something very simple. Let's just take this water bottle. I will hide the name. What we are supposed to do with this is, and it is mentioned in a lot of places, we are supposed to, after we finish the bottle, if we want to throw it away, we are supposed to twist the bottle and crush it and then throw it in a recycle bin so that it can be taken to the recycling plant and recycled. How many of us do that? We keep using it, and then one fine day we just throw it in the dustbin wherever, along with banana peels and onion skins, and we forget about it. But then the company ensures that this information is given to the customer, and the bottle is very crush friendly. If you've tried crushing a water bottle, you will know that these bottles are very crush friendly. Anytime you use plastic cups, you should just always crush them and throw them so they can't be reused, and you're supposed to throw them in the recycle bin, and that is what is supposed to be advertised a lot of times. So these bottles are crush friendly anyway. Okay. Yeah. Businesses should raise the consumers' awareness of their rights through education, product labeling, appropriate and helpful marketing communication, full details of contents and composition and promotion of safe usage and disposal of their products and services. In designing the product, businesses should ensure that the manufacturing processes and technologies required to produce it are resource efficient and sustainable. So these are the core elements of the second principle. Then some more, businesses should regularly review and improve upon the process of new technology development, deployment and commercialization, incorporating social, ethical and environmental considerations. Businesses should recognize and respect the rights of people who may be owners of traditional knowledge and other forms of intellectual property. Businesses should recognize that overconsumption results in unsustainable exploitation of our planet's resources, and should therefore promote sustainable consumption, including recycling of resources. Principle 3, again, so second principle dealt with the environment. The third principle deals with the well-being of all employees. The elements of the third principle are: businesses should respect the right to freedom of association, participation, collective bargaining, and provide access to appropriate grievance redressal mechanisms. Businesses should provide and maintain equal opportunities at the time of recruitment as well as during the course of employment, irrespective of caste, creed, gender, race, religion, disability, or sexual orientation. Businesses should not use child labor, forced labor, or any form of involuntary labor, paid or unpaid. It's not only child labor, it's also forcing people who do not want to work for you in any shape or form. So, forced labor. And businesses should take cognizance of the work-life balance of its employees, especially that of women. Again, I'm sorry, men may feel disadvantaged here and they'll say you're being unfair to us, but the government has recognized that men and women have different responsibilities, different physical capabilities. I'm not saying one is more or less than the other, but men and women are different, and it's nice that the government has taken note of that and put that in the third principle here. Okay. Businesses should provide facilities for the well-being of its employees, including those with special needs. They should ensure timely payment of fair living wages to meet basic needs and economic security of the employees. Businesses should provide a workplace environment that is safe, hygienic, human, and which upholds the dignity of the employees. Businesses should communicate this provision to their employees and train them on a regular basis. So people should know that the environment is safe and there should be some training. Businesses should ensure continuous skill and competence upgrading of all employees by providing access to necessary learning opportunities on an equal and non-discriminatory basis. They should promote employees' morale and career development through enlightened human resource interventions. Businesses should create systems and practices to ensure a harassment-free workplace where employees feel safe and secure in discharging their responsibilities. The fourth principle, again the third principle, deals with non-discrimination, well-being, emotional and physical well-being of employees, and improvement of the communication climate, the organizational climate in the workplace. The fourth principle deals with showing respect for or respecting the interests of and being responsive towards all stakeholders, especially those who are disadvantaged, vulnerable and marginalized. The core elements of the fourth principle are: businesses should systematically identify their stakeholders, understand their concerns, define purpose and scope of engagement, and commit to engaging with them. Businesses should acknowledge, assume responsibility, and be transparent about the impact of their policies, decisions, product and services, and associated operations on the stakeholders. Businesses should give special attention to stakeholders in areas that are underdeveloped. Businesses should resolve differences with stakeholders in a just, fair, and equitable manner. So, then again, this is respecting the interests of the stakeholders. The fifth principle is respect for and promotion of human rights. Core elements here are: businesses should understand the human rights content of the Constitution of India, national laws and policies, and the content of the International Bill of Human Rights. Businesses should appreciate that human rights are inherent, universal, indivisible, and interdependent in nature. Businesses should integrate respect for human rights in management systems, in particular through assessing and managing human rights impacts of operations and ensuring all individuals impacted by the businesses have access to grievance mechanisms. Businesses should recognize and respect human rights of all relevant stakeholders and groups within and beyond the workplace, including that of communities, consumers, and vulnerable marginalized groups. Businesses should, within their sphere of influence, promote the awareness and realization of human rights across their value chain. Businesses should not be complicit with human rights abuses by a third party. So, this is about the protection of human rights. This is about looking after the basic rights of all human beings associated with the business. The sixth principle, again the core elements of principle 6 are: businesses should utilize. Principle 6 is: businesses should respect, protect, and make efforts to restore the environment. Core elements here are: businesses should utilize natural and man-made resources in an optimal and responsible manner and ensure the sustainability of resources by reducing, reusing, recycling, and managing waste. Businesses should take measures to check and prevent pollution. They should assess the environmental damage and bear the cost of pollution abatement with due regard to public interest. Businesses should ensure that benefits arising out of access and commercialization of biological and other natural resources and associated traditional knowledge are shared equitably. Businesses should continuously seek to improve their environmental performance by adopting cleaner production methods, promoting use of energy efficient and environment friendly technologies, and use of renewable energy. Okay. Businesses should develop environment management systems, EMS, and contingency plans and processes that help them in preventing, mitigating, and controlling environmental damages and disasters which may be caused due to their operations or that of a member of its value chain. Businesses should report their environmental performance, including the assessment of potential environmental risks associated with their operations, to the stakeholders in a fair and transparent manner. Businesses should proactively persuade and support their value chain to adopt this principle. So, again there is protection for the environment and how it can be, or the principles on which it rests. The seventh principle is businesses, when engaged in influencing public and regulatory policy, should do so in a responsible manner. So, this is about policy advocacy. Businesses, while pursuing policy advocacy, must ensure that their advocacy positions are consistent with the principles and core elements contained in these guidelines. To the extent possible, businesses should utilize the trade and industry chambers and associations and other such collective platforms to undertake such policy advocacy. The eighth principle is businesses should support inclusive growth and equitable development. And the elements of the eighth principle are: businesses should understand their impact on social and economic development and respond through appropriate action to minimize the negative impacts. Businesses should innovate and invest in products, technologies, and processes that promote the well-being of the society. So, we are talking about protecting the society, the environment, the people connected with the environment, protection and welfare of the natural environment, even with the development that is going on. Businesses, third element here is businesses should make efforts to complement and support the development priorities at local and national levels, and assure appropriate resettlement and rehabilitation of communities who have been displaced owing to their business operations. Businesses operating in regions that are underdeveloped should be especially sensitive to local concerns. Okay. The last principle is businesses should engage with and provide value to their customers. So, the core elements here are businesses, while serving the needs of their customers, should take into account the overall well-being of the customers and that of society. Businesses should ensure that they do not restrict the freedom of choice and free competition in any manner while designing, promoting, and selling their products. We are living in a free country. We have the freedom of choice, and this is again built into the NVGs. So, businesses should ensure that they do not restrict this freedom in any way. Businesses should disclose all information truthfully and factually through labeling and other means, including the risks to the individual, to society, and to the planet from the use of the products, so that the customers can exercise their freedom to consume in a responsible manner. Cigarette smoking is injurious to health. We've all seen that warning on cigarette packets. I don't like people burning their lungs. I tell my students wherever I see them, please don't burn your lungs. So, cigarette packets have this statutory warning. We call them statutory warning. And these statutory warnings, they are mandatory. They inform you of the risks. Now, with that risk, if you still want to consume it, it's your choice. But anyway, so, businesses are required to disclose all information truthfully and factually through labeling and other means, including the risks to the individual, to society, and to the planet from the use of the product, so that the customers can exercise their freedom to consume in a responsible manner. Where required, businesses should also educate their customers on the safe and responsible usage of their products and services. Please do not consume more than X milliliters of this product, or harming more than this volume of the product could be harmful to you. Consuming more than X volume of this product could be harmful to you, or do not consume this product with something else. So, on various medicines, we see these warnings mainly on medicines. Do not drive after consuming this medicine. So, all those things are clearly mentioned, not to be sold without the prescription of a registered medical practitioner, something like that. So these warnings are there. So all these warnings are there to educate the customers. Businesses should promote and advertise their products in ways that do not mislead or confuse the consumers or violate any of the principles in these guidelines. Businesses should exercise due care and caution while providing goods and services that result in over-exploitation of natural resources or lead to excessive conspicuous consumption. Businesses should provide adequate grievance handling mechanisms to address customer concerns and feedback. Now, this seems like just a reading, and that is what it really was. I just wanted you to be alert, to be aware of what Ministry of Corporate Affairs has told us or has suggested in terms of these guidelines. Now, let's look at the Indian Companies Act and specifically the section that talks about the CSR. But before that, I would like to show you something very, very interesting. We'll talk about this. I just realized I had that up. One second. Yeah. So let me show you a sample CSR business responsibility report. This is what a business responsibility report looks like. I'm not trying to promote any particular company, but this is, this was the first one that came to mind. So I'm just showing this to you. So this is what a business responsibility report looks like, and this is mandatory with annual reports. Businesses are supposed to report their responsibility activities through this particular report. You can see section A, general information about the company, then you have financial details of the company, then you have other details, you have business responsibility information. And I'll just show you where this is coming from. This is coming from the Indian Companies Act, which of 2013. The amendment was made in 2013, and chapter 9 section 135 of the Indian Companies Act reads as follows. Let me show you. I have pulled that also up here somewhere. Companies Act, yeah. Okay, so section 135 here, corporate social responsibility. I think this is page 87. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Every company having net worth of rupees 500 crore or more, or turnover, oh, I'm sorry, you can't read it. Let me just increase the size. You can find this on the internet. This is from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. So this is what the Companies Act reads. Every company having net worth of rupees 500 crore or more, which is 5 billion, I think, in terms of million and billion. Okay, this is the maximum that it can go to. So every company having net worth of rupees 500 crore or more, or turnover of rupees 1000 crore or more, or a net profit of rupees 5 crore or more during any financial year shall constitute a corporate social responsibility of the board consisting of 3 or more directors, out of which at least one director shall be an independent director. The CSR committee shall formulate and recommend to the board a CSR policy which shall indicate the activities to be taken by the company as specified in the schedule, recommend the amount of expenditure to be incurred on the activities, monitor the CSR policy of the company from time to time. Okay, and here is very, very important information. The board of every company referred to in subsection this shall ensure that the company spends in every financial year at least 2% of the average net profits of the company made during the 3 immediately preceding financial years in pursuance of its CSR policy, provided that the company shall give preference to the local area and areas around it and where it operates for spending the amount earmarked for CSR activities, and provided that the company fails to spend such amount, the board shall specify the reasons for not spending the amount. So this is actually, you know, and I've condensed all this information and put it on this slide here. This is from the Companies Act, chapter 9, section 135, CSR. So you have to have a CSR committee with one member of the board specially designated for CSR activities. CSR policy has to be formulated and publicly disclosed, shared with the stakeholders. The board of every company shall ensure that the company spends in every financial year at least 2% of the average net profits of the company made during the 3 preceding financial years in pursuance of its CSR policy, etc. So all of this information has been provided to you. Now this is what India is moving towards. We have, the government is asking us to take cognizance of the need for CSR activities in our environment, and we will, you know, we'll pull information from the NVGs as we go along. But anyway, so now this then leads to this. I will show you the company, what is mentioned on the Companies Act has been reflected here. So details of the director responsible for business responsibility. Let me see if I can increase the size here so you can see it. Okay. Business responsibility information, name of the director, the telephone number, the email address is given. This is all public information. This is all from their website. And again, the principles are listed here. The questions are, do you have policies for principles 1 to 9? Has the policy being formulated in consultation with the relevant stakeholders? Does the policy conform to any national or international standards? If yes, specify. Has the policy been approved by the board? If yes, has it been signed by the MD, owner, CEO, appropriate board director? Does the company have a specified committee of the board? Has the to oversee the implementation of the policy? Has the policy been formally communicated to all relevant internal and external stakeholders? Does the company have in-house structure to implement the policy or policies? So for every principle they are supposed to respond. Does the company have a grievance redressal mechanism related to the policy or policies to address stakeholders' grievances related to the policy or policies? Has the company carried out independent audit or evaluation of the working of this policy by an external or internal agency? And so, you know, the details are listed here. I would urge you to go and read this information, and here is some more homework for you for whatever we have talked about in this particular lecture. I would like you to go through the business responsibility reports of various profit making organizations and spot examples of these principles and discuss them on the forum. So just find out how different companies have responded to these guidelines and how they have prepared their business responsibility reports, and how they have indicated what they are doing and how they have reported to their stakeholders about their responsibility efforts. Very, very interesting stuff. If you are genuinely interested in corporate social responsibility, this is a gold mine of information of how much our corporate houses are doing for the community that they serve. So I hope you found this lecture useful and interesting, and we'll move on to some more discussion on CSR in the next class. Thank you very much for listening.